friends, and welcome to the fourth week of Lent. Last week, we talked about who Jesus is and what he taught during his ministry on earth. Today, we are talking about one of the biggest themes we focus on during Lent. What is sin? Sin has been around since the very beginning of humanity. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were living in paradise with God. Everything was perfect, but they were greedy and disobeyed what God had told them. This is called the original sin, and it caused Adam and Eve to be cast out from the garden. You see, sin is any action that creates distance between us and God. In the case of Adam and Eve, this was literal distance, as they were no longer able to stay in the garden with God because of their sin. When we sin and break our covenant with God, it doesn't create a physical distance from God, but a spiritual one. The United Methodist Church says that sin is our alienation from God, our willful act of turning from God as the center of life and making our own selves and our own wills the center. From this fundamental sin, our various other sins spring. Sin doesn't just separate us from God. In sin, we distance ourselves from other people, from God's creation, and from our own selves and the dreams that God has for us. Last week, we said that Jesus gave us the two most important commandments: love God and love others. All of our actions should fall into the framework of loving God or loving others. We act sinfully when we don't act out of love. We should be trying to live like Jesus in everything that we do. Of course, that isn't possible. We are human, and sin is a part of our nature. But when we are close to God and have a strong relationship with God, we naturally produce fruits of the Spirit rather than sin. Refraining from sin doesn't just mean following the rules. It's about trying with all of our hearts to love God and to love others, and accepting God's grace when we fall short of what he asks of us. God knows that Jesus is the only person who is without sin, which is why he has given us the gift of grace, and he forgives us no matter how many times we have to ask for that forgiveness. When we've been acting sinfully, it can feel like it's impossible for us to get back to God. But because of Jesus, sin can't keep us from our gracious, loving God. And that is the incredible good news of Easter. Bye, friends.